Today, we're going to tackle a really crucial topic: security and governance for big data environments. Hey everyone, welcome from Nexus. If you're building systems that handle huge, massive data sets, then you know that protecting that data isn't just a best practice, it's literally everything. It's fundamental to your success, and frankly, your company's survival. So, for this explainer, we're diving straight into Chapter 19 of Big Data for Dummies. Together, we are going to unpack the pretty unique security and governance challenges that just come with playing in the big data sandbox. All right, here's our game plan. First, we'll talk about why this is a whole new frontier. Then we'll get into the nitty-gritty of the real risks. After that, we'll look at the solutions. Think of them as two main pillars: the technical tools and the solid governance strategy that holds it all together. We'll also touch on the people part, which is huge, and we'll wrap it all up with a super practical checklist you can actually use.
Okay, let's jump right in. Section 1, the new frontier. So, what exactly makes securing big data such a different beast compared to the old way of doing things?
Well, think of it like this. Traditional data, that's kind of like a walled garden. You've got a castle, you've got a moat, everything is vetted, clean, and trusted before it even gets inside. But big data, that's the Wild West. It's this sprawling, open city. You're pulling in tons of unstructured stuff from everywhere, from sources you haven't even checked out. Security isn't something you can do at the gate anymore. It's this massive, complex challenge you have to solve after all this messy data is already inside your walls.
And you know, this new frontier, it comes with new dangers, right? So let's dig into the specific risks, the hidden dangers you'll really only find in the world of big data.
So where are the real landmines here? I mean, when you're pulling in data from social media, from forums, from all these connected IoT devices, what are the threats that should really be keeping you up at night? First up, hidden malware. This is a big one. You know, all that unstructured data from public sources can be a total Trojan horse. A seemingly innocent comment, a file, it could have a malicious link or even a virus buried deep inside. And if you just suck that right into your analytics system without checking, you've basically just handed over the keys to the kingdom. Next, you've got the huge risk of unverified and just plain wrong data. I mean, you find this awesome data set online, but how do you know you can trust it? What if that source was hacked and the data was manipulated? If you start making critical business decisions based on faulty information, well, that could be a complete disaster. This really gets to the heart of veracity. Can you actually trust that your data is true?
And this one is massive. Accidentally exposing personally identifiable information, or PII. In the rush to analyze everything, it is frighteningly easy to slurp up names, social security numbers, credit card details, you name it. And that's not just a privacy violation. That puts real people at risk and can absolutely tank your company's reputation.
All right, so that's the scary stuff. What do we actually do about it? Well, the solution starts with Pillar 1, technical safeguards. This is all about the actual tech, the tools and techniques you use to build a digital fortress around your data.
One of your first lines of defense is something called data anonymization. And the goal is pretty simple. You just strip out any information that can be tied back to a specific person. Here's the catch: if you're not careful and you don't remove enough info, clever hackers can sometimes connect the remaining dots and reverse engineer everything to re-identify people. It becomes this constant cat and mouse game.
A more powerful method is tokenization. Now, instead of just removing sensitive data, you replace it with a random, non-sensitive value, a token. The best analogy is a casino chip. A hacker might steal the poker chip, but it's totally useless outside the casino. Same idea here. That's why a lot of experts argue that tokenization is actually even safer than encryption for protecting things like credit card numbers.
But look, technology alone is never going to be enough. You absolutely need Pillar 2, a strong governance strategy. You can think of this as the blueprint, the rule book that ensures control and consistency across your entire data ecosystem.
So how do you build one? Well, it starts by getting all the key stakeholders in a room, because this isn't just an IT problem. It affects marketing, HR, finance, everyone. Then, you've got to establish consistent metadata. That's basically data about your data, so everyone is speaking the same language. From there, you build processes for auditing to prove you're compliant. And finally, you define clear stewardship roles so everyone knows who is responsible for what. And that brings us to maybe the most critical piece of this entire puzzle, and honestly, the one that gets overlooked the most: the people. You can have the best tech in the world, but if the human element is weak, your defenses are full of holes.
So here's the key takeaway, right here. Managing the security of information has to be a shared responsibility across the entire organization. It's not just something you can toss over the fence to the IT department. Everyone who touches the data is part of the security team.
This whole idea of shared responsibility has actually created this brand new, super important role, the Big Data Steward. Now, this is not your old school data manager. This person is laser focused on those new, dynamic sources like social media. They're on the front lines, monitoring these sources and making sure all that incoming data actually complies with the company's privacy and retention policies.
All right, let's bring this all home. To wrap things up, we're going to turn all this theory into something you can actually use, a checklist. These are the key questions you and your team absolutely need to be asking to guide your strategy.
And you gotta think about these seriously. How are you controlling access rights, not just for your internal databases, but for every single data source? Are you proactively hunting for vulnerabilities, or are you just waiting for a breach? Can you apply your security policies just as consistently to a messy Twitter stream as you do to your financial records? And critically, are you prepared for the worst? What's your plan for when, not if, a system goes down? Having solid answers here is the foundation of a truly secure big data environment.
And that's a wrap on our look at security and governance. Mastering these concepts is what separates a good data environment from a great and safe one. Next time, we're diving into Chapter 20 to explore how all this big data actually drives business. Thanks for hanging out with me.